Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the Department of Transportation is seeking the help of other government agencies to address the maritime industry issues flagged by the European Commission. Live and exclusive, EU Ambassador to the Philippines Luc Veron joins us in the program. Also, the Immigration Bureau prepares for the influx of air travelers this Holy Week and addresses recent reports of offloading. Immigration Deputy Spokesperson Melvin Mabulak tells us more in the program. The European Union identified the lack of onboard training as one of the deficiencies of Filipino seafarers. In this exclusive report, Tristan Odalo visited one of the few training ships in the country.
CNN Philippines gained exclusive access to MV Capitan Felix Oca, one of the biggest training ships in the country under the Associated Marine Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines o AMOSU. The vessel has a length of 114.55 meters and width of 16 meters. On board the ship, we met cadets from the Maritime Academy of Asia and the Pacific or MAAP. The ship's captain says they can accommodate at least 180 cadets per batch.
Main purpose ng this training vessel natin to support all the maritime when it comes to perform duties, sea service dito sa barko para lalong maging confident ang mga cadets natin. So hindi lang sa isang department, both three departments from deck department, engine department, and kasama rin ang catering department.
We first proceeded to the captain's deck where the main ship operation takes place. This is where cadets can witness firsthand the use of navigational equipment.
Nagkakaroon sila ng duties ng same as the duties with the officers on board. Familiarize with the safety familiarization, lahat ng safety on board na kasama lahat sa performance ng training nila.
This is what they call as a training bridge, wherein students and cadets have the opportunity to use navigational training consoles such as electronic charts and radars in order for them to be equipped in doing it in actual ship operations. All trainings and drills on board the ship are in compliance with international standards and requirements of the European Union. But there are only a few training ships in the country. The European Commission points to onboard training as one of the deficiencies the Philippines needs to address.
Mayari, nung nag-aaral ka sa exam, parang ganoon din yan, di ba? Dapat forewarned is forearmed. Dapat tinan natin lahat yung dapat natin gawin, tinan natin kung ano ang kailangan, at tuparin natin to. Siyempre, this will not end here. Dapat, eternal vigilance dapat. Hindi dapat maging complacent tayo dyan.
It's been more than a decade since the EU called out the attention of the Philippines over lack of compliance with maritime safety standards. The government eyes to hold interagency meetings to discuss the European Commission decision. Now, the government needs to work hand in hand and closely coordinate with different stakeholders and seafarers groups in order to address the deficiencies pointed out by the European Commission when it comes to the country's compliance to international maritime standards. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
The EU vows to extend assistance to address technical deficiencies in the country's seafarer training programs. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have European Union Ambassador to the Philippines, Luc Veron. Ambassador, thank you so much for your time and for this interview.
Thank you for having me, Vicky.
Our Department of Migrant Workers called the extension of our seafarers certification crisis averted. Basically, this means that about 50,000 jobs of masters and officers on board European vessels were saved. Could you, if at all, kindly run us through the decision-making process of the European Commission on Transport?
Yes, we have been in conversation with the Philippine government since 2005 or 6 about basically the oversight of maritime training, the systems of maritime training in the Philippines. And we had initiated we, the European Commission, had initiated a withdrawal procedure for the certification of seafarers in December 2021. And we had given some time to the Philippine government to reply to a number of questions, which they have extensively done in March 2022. Actually, we received, if I'm not incorrect, 3,500 pages of documentation, which the European Commission had to study very carefully, and came up with a decision last Friday on the 31st of March. Saving job is one way to present things, but of course, certificate for seafarers are valid for 5 years. So it would not have been an overnight problem, but definitely this is a very big deal, not only for the Philippines, but also for the European Union, because we employ, as you said, roughly 50,000 seafarers on our ships. So it's very important to the Philippines, very important to the European Union.
Okay, you said that we had about 63 issues from my interview yesterday since 2005 to 2006 that the Philippines had to work on. And again, in December 2021, there was again that concern from the European Commission for Transport. And as you mentioned, did you say, Ambassador, that the Philippines replied with a 3,500-page report?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes, I was present when this document was delivered by Marina in cooperation with Shell, and this was an impressive amount of documentation. Actually, you were talking about 60 areas of concern, but I think it can be boiled down to 6.
Right.
Actually, the one that were shown on screen a few moments ago. One of them is onboard training, but the first one is actually about monitoring, supervision, and evaluation of training and assessment. And this is the role of Marina, and this is something that we have shown Marina has shown progress that were sufficiently convincing for the European Commission to extend the certification provided by Philippine Maritime Schools.
Right. Just for clarification, Ambassador, what I was referring to about the 63 areas of concern or deficiencies, during my interview yesterday, I was told that there were about over 60, even back in 2005 to 2006. Yes. That's why it took a number of years, maybe 15 or more. So let's talk about, just before we go to the 6 areas or 6 deficiencies that still need to be addressed, you talked about this 5-year validity of the certificates. Could you tell us more about that? Because that was actually one of my questions. Now that there has been an extension of the recognition of the certificates of the seafarers, does this have an expiration date? When does it begin and when does it actually end?
No, what would have happened, let's take the negatives, the negative scenario. Should the European Commission have withdrawn the recognition of the certificates, it would only have applied for the future. In other words, seafarers who are a legitimate owner or legitimate bearer of a certificate, this certificate is valid up to 5 years. What we are talking about is recognition of future certificates. So basically the certificates that are delivered from now on. And there has been no change in that, since there was never an interruption of the recognition of certificates.
Let's talk about the 6 deficiencies rather, still identified by the European Commission for Transport. You mentioned the first one already, basically the training and monitoring and supervision. Are we lacking? Does this mean that the Philippines is lacking in a monitoring, supervision, and evaluation of training and assessment? Does this mean we do not have enough facilities, enough training grounds for our seamen?
There are many maritime schools in the Philippines. I don't know the exact number, but maybe 80 or 100. And they are being monitored by two government agencies. One is Marina, and the other is the Commission on Higher Education. So basically, our problems were pertaining to mostly the monitoring of the schools. Mm-hmm. So when our experts, when they visit the schools and they notice here and there deficiencies as to the implementation on the Convention on Training, which the Philippines is party to. So what we reported back to the government of the Philippines is the areas of concern we have after having collated all these observations. Mm-hmm. And they basically are the 6 areas that we mentioned, you mentioned. However, this was the basis for a proposal to withdraw the certificate, the recognition of the certificate.
Right.
This were communicated in December 21, and in March 22, the Philippine government replied on all these 6 areas, and the findings of the basis for the decision of the European Commission last Friday was that the Commission considered there is sufficient progress towards the 6 areas as to allow the continuation of the recognition of the certificates.
So
so these are not areas that remain problematic, but these are definitely areas we will continue to monitor. But so far, so good.
Okay, so that means that these 6 deficiencies, what the European Commission was saying that there has been progress, but it needs to be improved. That's what it means.
No, sufficient progress has been demonstrated by the Philippine government in their response to our concern, and therefore we have no reason to continue the withdrawal procedure. However, of course, we are bound by our own laws and regulations to continue to assess the maritime education systems for seafarers that go on our ships, that are employed on our ships. So we will continue to do that, but basically we have an obligation to assess every 10 years. Given that we have done that with the Philippines for quite a while, maybe it will not be 10 years, it will be sooner. Yeah. But so far, in the foreseeable future, I see no reason for the withdrawal of the certification.
Ambassador, how can the EU assist the Philippines in this regard? I guess the question is, what kind of technical assistance can be offered?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is an issue that we will discuss with the government of the Philippines. Actually, when President Marcos visited Brussels in December of last year, prior to his visit, he was briefed on the issue of seafarers, and this is an issue he discussed with the President of the Commission, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, and at that point, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen suggested that the European Commission could provide technical assistance. This will be in the form of a regional program, but of course the Philippines will get the bulk of it. It's not a huge program because it's technical assistance, basically transfer of knowledge of how we do oversight of maritime education, if you wish, in the European Union, and what could be emulated by the Philippines. So this is the aim of the overall purpose of such technical assistance, and of course this is something that we have to discuss first with our experts, the European Maritime Safety Agency in Lisbon, and the experts on the government of the Philippines side, so that we can find the best way to help, and that will be done, I think, before the end of the year. Before the end of the year, we will have in place something we can together work together.
Would you be able to tell us how many seafarers can actually benefit from this?
About all seafarers will benefit from a better oversight. Not only the seafarers, but also I would submit the parents and families who are paying for the studies. So they are entitled to receive the best service or the best product in terms of education. And this is something that actually is in the interest not only, as I mentioned in my tweet the other day, it's not only for the seafarers, but it's also for the seafarers, the future seafarers and their families. Because if you pay good money to learn the trade of being an officer on a ship, you deserve to have a diploma, a certificate that will allow you to work in the best on the best ships. And we would submit that the European Union are good employers, but they're also very demanding. So it's important when you buy education in a way, if you put your money in education to educate yourself or educate a member of the family, that you receive the best education that will allow you to work on the best ships in the world. And so it is in the interest of all seafarers in the Philippines to have a very good oversight of the schools, so that only the best standards are applied in all schools across the board.
Ambassador, finally, following the decision, what kind of impact do you foresee this will have on Philippine seafarers? I mean, do you actually project more EU countries hiring more, an increase in demand of Philippine seafarers?
Well, it's a free market, definitely. As I said, we value very much Filipino seafarers for their discipline, for most of them for their very high education. We value the fact that Filipinos are very good at sea and very disciplined, and then they speak very good English. So that's something that is very much valued. So I would anticipate that, yes, in terms of being employed on EU ships, definitely getting a good education and being Filipino is a good thing.
Thank you, European Union Ambassador to the Philippines, Luc Veron. I hope to speak to you again, Ambassador.
Thank you, Pinky.
And we need to take a very short break. Please stay tuned.